Hey, man.
What's up, man?
Let me just make sure we are all closed up here so there's no echoes, but we are live. How's your day going?
My day's been going pretty good. Things are good here. We just we made a couple 2 days ago we rolled out a major change internally to the Basecamp design that we're about to launch, and then we have a couple other tweaks we're going to be making, and feeling really good about where we're at. We're going to go into a private beta starting next week, and then we're in the home stretch. So feeling really good about it.
That's awesome.
All the natural, anxiety moments too, and anxious moments, but like for the most part, feeling really great about it. Cannot wait for people to get out there and use this thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I know you've been chewing on this for like a long time. So yeah, that's gotta be really cool to finally see it on the horizon.
I hope so. So hey, I was going to ask you, I was digging around Draft. I use Draft to write some stuff. And there's always been a feature in Draft that I thought was so sort of special, but also really weird and unusual. And like, it seemed different, like kind of a crazy idea. Whenever I see those, I'm like, oh, interesting. The idea was in Draft, you can write something and then you can pass it by a professional editor and pay them, I guess, pay them for their time, or is it per session? I don't know how it works specifically. But
it's per window. I promise the editor will look at your thing for, I forget what it is now, like 15 minutes.
Yep.
You can either buy 15 minutes or 45 minutes. So yeah, you buy a window of time for either $6 or $18. Unless you're paid, then you get a little discount.
Right, so you just get like you get a look. Someone gets a look at what you've been writing. And I thought it was really, really interesting because in most cases, what you'd imagine is like you'd share it with a friend and they would, you'd say, hey, what do you think of this or whatever. But this is like an objective third party who you don't know, who identifies themselves as an editor. And I'm really curious about where that idea came from, how you even made it work. Do you make any money off it? Do you pass it straight on? Where'd you find these people? How do you keep them employed? How do you keep people available to be ready to edit a document? Is it a 24-hour thing? I'm so curious about the details and how it all happened. So can you fill me in? Because I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's like a lot of ideas. I feel like there's things that led up to it, but like there's multiple things that I think were on my mind at the time when coming up with ideas, and a lot of ideas in Draft. Like, we've talked about on the show, and you and I have talked about it like crazy. Like I'm obsessed with like blue ocean strategy, right? Or I'm obsessed with, innovator solution kind of stuff. Like I want to create stuff that like you can't just go to somebody else. I don't want to create a Me Too product. Like even if I'm creating something like Draft, which was, and especially with Draft, like Draft is writing software. That is such a commodity these days, especially it's free. Go use Google Docs and it's free, right? Google Docs cost nothing.
Right.
Most laptops have Word installed on them. Notepad, like you have free writing environments. So I was kind of obsessed. Like, what can I do with Draft that is going to be super different? And like again, like we've summarized it before, but everybody go read Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a fantastic book just to like have some really interesting thoughts on. It's this whole idea of thinking about what everybody else is doing. And then, not doing a bunch of it, just forgetting about it, just assuming like you're going to do it a shittier version of it. And then coming up with the stuff that like, okay, you're going to maybe elevate that experience in your app. And then coming up with those things that like no one's doing. And like sitting with Draft, it was like very much like that. It was like, okay, I'm not going to do formatting. Draft is a very simple, minimal editor, and it was like I'm not going to spend a lot of time on formatting. Like Word does that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on graphs and charts. Like you can get that out of Word. But then I also was like, I'm not going to do live editing, like real time collaboration, because you can get that out of Google Docs. So it was like, okay, I'm going to focus on some stuff. I'm going to elevate. Like I started doing some stuff with like version control a little bit differently and better, I think, than other writing tools. But then I was in that land of Blue Ocean Strategy where it was like, I need to come up with some stuff that like no one's doing. So it just, I don't know, it opens my mind up to some of these ideas. Like, okay, as a writer, okay, so that creates this like mindset for me where it's just like I gotta find stuff that like no one's tackling right now. I don't know why they're not tackling it, but like this would be weird. Like I love weird ideas. Like you brought up like it's weird. I love weird shit. Like I want more weird ideas. I want more weird ideas in high rise because I love weird. Like that's the stuff that like you may have like a little inkling that it's gonna work out. A lot of people don't yet, but like that's the stuff that comes out of nowhere, and it's like, whoa, that was really interesting. And people remember the weird stuff. So with draft, like my mind was open to like weird ideas, and then more stuff started happening. Like I'm also a big fan of like that whole jobs to be done approach. Like you've talked about it. Ryan here has talked about it. You know, I recommend everybody read. There's that the jobs to be done.com website that I think is Bob's website. Read that stuff. Go research that stuff. If you don't know what I'm saying when I mention jobs to be done, but it's I thought a lot about the stuff I was doing as a writer. You know, I've been writing a lot, blog posts, articles, and I use my wife to do so much of this editing, but she doesn't have time to do it. So like draft was this like really great place for the two of us to collaborate or get her edits on, or I would send a link out to an editor I had at Fast Company or whatever. But then it was just looking at that job that I have. It was like, how can I do this job better? And it dawned on me like, man, it would be really good if I could actually pay an editor to look at my own work, because my wife is slammed. I kept bumping into these situations where it was like, I need to get an article out because I promised some guy I would get this article to him today, but Lynette is busy at her job. So like, I can't get an editor on this. So it was just like, I really need my own editor. And so that kind of opened me up to the idea of like, I wonder if like somehow I could get editors involved. And again, it was one of those just moments, like some other things happened. Like I've got a buddy who runs a company from Y Combinator that I met a long time ago. And I realized he was offering basically outsourced labor. And he had a bunch of people that he was recruiting that you could sign up for a bunch of hours to get certain tasks done. And he had mentioned writing. And it was really just, again, like, I don't know, it was just because of all these things I was thinking about. And then I saw his email and he was talking about how he's been recruiting writers and other people to do things like edit emails and stuff like that. I was like, holy shit, I could just tie into his service and make this part of draft. And it was really ghetto at first. Like, I think I attached Stripe, you know, an edit order would come in. And then I would go email my friend's company, like, you know, I signed up at my friend's company and whatever, but it was all manual. Like the order would come in and then I would have to send the email out. And it was just to test it, to see if it was going to work okay. And as soon as like orders kept coming in and it was like, oh my God, I've got to automate this because I'm this like man in the middle that I don't want to keep emailing my editor, this team of editors I have. And so I then, because it seemed like it was viable, I automated it. Now when someone does the order, it goes right to the company. But again, so some of the details that you're asking me about are, it's my friend's company. He does the recruiting.
Yep.
It's people all over the place, not just, you know, not just in India. It's like in Ireland and people in the US who are in between jobs, and people who are like, it's kind of like a Amazon Turk, but like a little elevated. It's just a little bit more professional, because he's kind of, you know, gotten them to sign NDAs, and he's you know, they take some kind of test to kind of get into his system. So you're dealing with someone who's not just anybody on the internet. But that's it. That's kind of the color behind setting up that service.
And so, what does it cost?
I don't know. You know, I pay something per month.
Okay.
And it changes. Like the more hours I buy from him, the cheaper it gets. But I pay something per month. So I'm not making a lot of profit on the edits.
Yeah. Did you vet the editors at all? Or you don't really know who they're going to be, because it's whoever the service vets them, and then you just trust the service?
I trust the service. I do a lot of quality assurance. So when the edits come through, I will glance at a bunch of them just to make sure like I'm not getting garbage back. I don't do them all. Sometimes I pass them, you know, they go right back to the customer, but I'll like quality check them a little bit just to be like, okay, are they helping this person, or did they just insert like 2 commas for 45 minutes worth of work, which I don't think is a proper value. So I will go back to them, and whenever I see something that doesn't look good, and be like, hey, please redo this. This wasn't good quality.
Yeah.
But yeah, he managed it. And like I said, for cost, I make a little bit. I forget what my margin is. Maybe it's even only like 20% more. I make a little bit of margin on what people pay. but it's minuscule. I really just wanted to offer the service because it like makes using Draft attractive. Like it's a really great collaborative environment for an editor like that. So it was like, if I can offer this service but not make any money, if it's even a wash for me, that's a really still like neat place and thing you can do in Draft that you can't do anywhere else. So it was okay to me to do that, to like get people using Draft, because people pay for just Draft, not just the editing services.
So how is it actually integrated on the back end? So you submit something for an edit. The editor gets, is it basically like a draft invite to edit the document? So do you have to, I know Draft's pretty simple, but still, like, did you have to train, does someone train the editors on how to use Draft at all, or just assume that it works? They figure it out, they hit save or whatever, and then the person gets a thing back saying, hey, your edits are available. Same flow as if I was just sharing with a friend.
Pretty much the same flow, but it took a little trial and error. So like, you know, basically those early ones, I would get the email, and you know, a new order got placed, and it would send me a link to a draft document, like just the share link or whatever, and then I would go ahead and email the editors. And it took me a while of just kind of, not a long while, you know, a few weeks, a month, before I started kind of tuning it a little bit. I would send them this link, and they would have clearly worked on it in like Microsoft Word. I think I got a Word document back once, and I had to be like, you know, can you please, even if you're going to work on it somewhere else, kind of dump it in here and make sure it looks okay here, because this is the system that I'm going to use then to send this back. So it took a little bit of teaching. Now I've got like an email that goes out. It's like specially instructed, like, you know, use Draft to do this. You know, don't look for, you know, British English. I don't know. I apologize if I'm not saying it right, but like, you know, like certain words in England are like, they use C's instead of S's or something, right? And so I have to clue my editors in, like, please be aware of language like that. It's probably not a misspelling. It's probably someone in England who's spelling it in their local way. So there's some instructions there that are like, okay, please don't spend all your time on just punctuation, you know. And then there's also like an extra note that after you do the order, an extra note can come in. So then it was like, I was starting to realize like a lot of people like they wanted grammar. Some people just wanted grammar. Some people were like, I'm not a native English speaker. I just need someone's eyes on this because I don't know if I'm spelling words right or where the grammar goes. But then some people were like, yeah, grammar's fine. I got it. I just want you to tell me, does this make any sense? Am I being clear? And so then they get to add an extra note to kind of clue, and that goes right to the editors to kind of clue the editors into, okay, you need to shift your focus right now. This person wants help with the opening paragraph. So there's a little customization in there. But yeah, like it took some time to try and like come up with the flow. But the flow, like you said, is almost just like sending a link out to your friend. The link gets out to the editors. I don't know who tells them, hey, Nate, if they're new, how to use Draft. I think there's a low, I've made Draft simple enough that I don't think it's totally frightening to get a link like that. They might just tell their other crew like, hey, Nate uses Draft, make sure you do it this way. I'm not quite sure how they arrange that.
So I just think it's such a cool thing to do, to experiment in this way, to come up with a really, it's kind of funny because I don't know when you launched this, may have been a year ago, maybe longer, right? Year and a half.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right? Maybe even a couple of years now, yeah.
Since then, there's been a variety of things happening in the market in general, not in the writing market, but in like the app market, where there's something called Operator, which is a tool where like you can basically text a concierge and they'll kind of help you do anything you need them to do. I know there's a tool called Flow, which is a to-do task manager style product that had for a while, I don't know if they still do, but they had the ability to add an assistant, basically add a human assistant to your account. And so if one of your tasks, like you could assign this person tasks basically through Flow, like you might assign a coworker a task and they would go out and do something. I just used Reserve for the first time, which is like a way to book restaurants, kind of trying that out. And there's a very human concierge style experience around that. I know that Path was doing something for a while where you could text a local business and then like someone on their side would call the business and get information, text it back to you. It's like all this human stuff going on, which is very interesting, like adding a third adding a middleman. Basically, it's a business of middlemen, which is so interesting because in many ways the internet was grew up to get rid of the middleman, like direct peer-to-peer stuff, and it's fascinating to see that that's sort of coming back, and it's kind of like, and this I think is a great example of that. It's also really cool because software typically is it's a you and the computer, or you and somebody you know experience, and I love that you can bring a level up with an expert into something when you need them. It's just a very cool thing. So I've always been intrigued by that, and I didn't really know the story behind it, and it's cool to hear that.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
And it's still used today. I mean, its lack of use is only probably because I don't market draft very much. I spend all my time on Highrise, but
Yep.
it's people use it. I've got customers that use it every day. They're constantly writing blog posts and sending it in because it's like for $5. If you subscribe to Draft for $3.99 a month, I knock $1 off of the orders, so it's like $5.
Yep.
For your 15 minutes, and it's like for $5 someone will look at your thing and just a sanity check it that you're not going misspelling or whatever. Facebook I think is even doing something now, right? I don't think they launched this, but they're about to do some sort of, and they might be using artificial intelligence or something, but they might be doing something along these lines that you're saying Operator and all these other tools are starting to do.
Yeah. So I mean, does that ever get you thinking about Highrise? So like,
Yeah.
like what, like in any tool, or forget the tool actually, because tool is not the right word here. Like you're trying to make progress on something, you're trying to achieve some sort of an outcome. If it was on Draft, it was writing something to publish for somebody or something or whatever, needed help to make it better. With Highrise, you're maybe trying to close a deal, or you're trying to make sure all the communication about a certain thing happens in one place and is stored in one place, so nothing falls through the cracks, and so you have things on the record. Like there are like, what have you thought about how you can bring an outside third-party human element into some of those experiences as well? Like, what's the best way to talk to a new lead? What's the best way to close a deal if I'm struggling? Like, I've been going back and forth with this. Like, imagine going back and forth on a lead or on a deal, and you just can't close it. If there's a button like "Help me close," and you hit that, and like you get like a professional salesperson or something, or some sales consultant who's really good at looking at a situation and going, oh, geez, all you got to do is this, or have you thought about this, or I noticed this word that they used. Maybe if you explain something slightly differently, you'll close the sale. But like having someone be able to swoop in and give you advice at that moment that you're struggling and having a hard time, it seems like there's a real opportunity for innovation there. I'm wondering if you thought about that or tossed any of those ideas around.
Yeah, I mean, just based on this experience with Draft, like it's on my mind a lot. And this is interesting. The "Help me close" button. I like that. I like that angle of it, because I have had some thoughts about this for all different parts of the product. For example, bulk email I'm about to do in Highrise, and I'm trying to figure out, and it's a big challenge of mine, like how can I make bulk email something different? Because you can go get bulk email from like a million different providers and they're good. I mean, they're good tools out there. And I feel like there's at least a couple of reasons that make us different, and the thing that we're about to launch are different. But I want the next thing, like blue ocean strategy. I want the thing that no one else is doing. And so some of it it comes up like, well, should someone help me write this email? Like you're saying, can I get, if I'm going to send a bulk email out, can I send this to first of all, can I get a simple design? Like you go to some of these tools and like, there's so many templates to choose from, and none of them are perfect. They still don't work in phones. And I just wanted, even for the newsletter I sent out to Highrise users about new features, I had to create that myself because I just wanted something simple and I couldn't find it. And it was like, okay, I would have paid somebody, I don't even know, $500. I'm not even sure. Just be like, can you give me a really simple email template that's a little customized with my logo so that I can use in my bulk email tool? Like, why isn't that like a button click away? I don't know why I have to go hire a designer to go accomplish this. It seems like that should have just been like a really easy thing to pay somebody for. But I love it. I've also thought about trying to bring in professional salespeople, as well as even productivity people. There's a lot of people who use Highrise simply for managing their tasks, getting things done, inbox zero type of thing. Like we actually have some people that I'm tempted to bring in that almost like look over your account. You can take a class and be like, okay, here's what's going on. Like, here's how you could, organize your tasks better to kind of, make yourself less stressed out. And I like the angle though, the can you close this, help me close this deal.
I'm stuck. Help me close this deal.
I like that.
Having someone come in, like there's a guy in town who just comes to mind, who I know, who's like a really good sales guy, not
Josh.
Josh? Yeah, Josh, right.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to Josh with this idea. Yeah, he's immediately who I think about. Yeah.
So Josh is just like, Josh, I could just imagine Josh swooping in, looking at your setup, like looking at who you're talking to, like how you're managing your leads, what your conversations with the leads have been like what's it like, because like you do this, you're an independent salesperson, or you're a business owner and you're trying to close a sale, like you don't even necessarily know how to do it all the time, and just having someone come and go, oh geez, this is what's going on, or I think we could, here's the real problem. It's not I see you guys discussing this thing that isn't really the problem. The real problem, or the thing that's in the way of closing this deal is this. So like just some fresh set of eyes, almost like a deal editor, basically, for yeah. And going, oh yeah, here's what you could do, or here's something you could try, or why don't you try this, or maybe you're emailing this person too often, like lay off a little bit, like a coach, like a sales coach or something. But I think that could be a general offering, but then also this like moment of struggle, like, God, help me close this, like help me close this deal. I would pay someone $100, $500, $1,000. I don't know, let's say the deal is 20 grand. Like I'll pay someone $500 right now to help me close this deal, like to give me a better shot, even if they improve my odds by 20%. Like I think that those are the moments where you can, first of all, help a lot. Those are also profitable moments because people are willing to spend money in those moments because they want something right now. And of course you want to give them something that's worth more than what they're paying for. So like if someone's paying a couple $100 to try and help close a deal, and they close a deal for 10,000, it's like the best money they've ever spent in their life. That it just feels like a lot of things are aligned really nicely there. So I think that'd be a really interesting pilot to try how it goes.
Yeah. And it's stuff I've been kicking around in my mind, but now talking about it with you, it's becoming more concrete. I do like it a lot.
This is what's so good about this show, this idea of forcing ourselves to talk about this stuff out loud, because this is an idea you've been toying with for 2 years with a different product. And you've implemented it with a different product, and you're working on a new product now. And like, it's not supernatural where to go with the idea until you talk about it out loud with somebody.
Totally.
Someone else comes up with something. And this is kind of the value of having someone else jump in on your thoughts, which Absolutely. Is the value of having a salesperson come in who, when you're trying to close, and if you're unable to close, it's the same thing. It's just having a chance to talk to someone about something, to see something that you can't see, and then give you some guidance.
Yeah. And man, we just had this example. We've been trying to create, this is a tangent, but it's the same kind of principle. Like I was struggling with, we added all these new auto assignment rules when you forward an email into Highrise, that hopefully now it can get auto routed to the correct deal or case. Because a lot of people are doing a lot of this manual filing from an email to the right place it's supposed to be in, kind of like a rule for your folders or something. Well, we wanted to kind of be smart about it. Like, hey, you've been assigning these emails to this case, like let's just do it automatically for you next time. We bumped into some trouble with it, and all of a sudden I like start talking to Lynette about it. Like I just start like lining out all the rules to her, this other person, and just the act of talking to her about it. And she had a little bit of insight, but I mean, just the act of going back and forth with her about this, like really cleared this freaking thing up. And now I think like our solution is so much tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like just making this deal thing more collaborative. And I can imagine like salespeople are kind of, especially when we interview a lot of these salespeople, we talk to them, they're siloed. These salespeople are work on their own. Like they don't do a lot of collaborating, trying to close a single deal. So an outside party helping them, I feel like might be really solid for them, because like they don't have to like admit weakness or trying and like lose face or with someone else like on their team. They can go to a third party anonymously or whoever, but like somebody who has no stake in the company to get their help right now, and maybe nobody has to know about it. That's cool. I like it.
I've got a buddy of mine who works in enterprise software sales, selling services, and he's a part of a massive, he works for these big companies, big tech companies, huge sales team, thousands of salespeople. And he still feels like he's on an island by himself because sales, and I'm generalizing here, but sales teams, at least the ones that I've been hearing about from him, I'm just going to say from him in this sphere, right? I'm not going to generalize beyond that. His fellow salespeople aren't that helpful because there's a lot of competition, internal competition, and they don't necessarily want to help each other. So it's like, even though you've got 1,000 coworkers who do the same thing as you do, and if like you're trying to code something and you're like, hey, how do you do this? Like one of your fellow coders would be like, oh, here's a tip or whatever, here's how you do it. It seems to be different in the sales arena, basically, because it is more like a fight to the death kind of sport in some ways. And so by having someone on the outside that doesn't have any, that if you close a sale and they don't, they're not threatened. It's not about someone taking a client from them. It's just someone who's willing to help and interested in helping. So anyway, I think there's something really, really cool there, and it would be a really original, super original thing. I think it'd be very press-worthy if it works, especially. I think it'd just be flat out interesting. And I also think that a lot of salespeople would have the time even to consult on one another's stuff. So you might be in sales and you might be really damn good, and you might, it's kind of like in some ways it's sort of like Uber X, where like you already have a job maybe, but you can flip on, I'm willing to help people close deals on high rise from 4 to 6 today because I've got some downtime.
Yeah.
And so you kind of flip it on and you're live and you're available.
It's funny you bring that up. Yeah, I've been tuned again on something very similar to that. Like we have all of these great, it's like we have a network of people who use high-rise, but they don't know each other. Like there's a bunch of people who are really good at high-rise and doing deals, and they're pros at sales. And there's newcomers who are starting businesses that could use some help. I feel like high-rise could connect these people. And yeah, I like the idea a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you go in that direction. It's original. It's interesting. It flows with your blue ocean sort of mindset, and it's sort of an unusual, exciting, interesting thing to try. So
yeah. There was another along these lines. I was actually also thinking about. We're about to run out of time, but I'll just leak it out here quick. But I want to do something for like the nonprofit world. I feel like nonprofits suffer from. Again, this is me speculating because I haven't spent enough time with nonprofits, especially with like raising money. But like they are constantly raising money, or they're constantly raising gifts for events and things. I'm curious if I could put together a bunch of people from high rise that are good at raising money because they're good at doing deals.
Mm-hmm.
If they would be willing to donate their time, if I could basically connect some great ace salespeople and their time, and they're willing to donate their time because they're looking for something, even outside of work to do to kind of make the world a better place. And then nonprofits who are like looking for volunteers, not just to like not to do but to raise money, to make phone calls, to send emails, to like get gifts from corporate donors. I'm curious if there's like a little connection there that could be made that I've been tempted to do.
I'm sure there's a whole bunch of ideas around that you could knock out. Yeah, I'll be watching. I'm curious to see how that pans out. I think
we'll hear about it.
It's easy to come up with the idea, right, and to execute it well and stuff. But I think there might be something interesting to that.
Cool.
Really interesting to that. We got a minute left. Anything else to talk about for a minute, or just bank a minute and come back to it?
I don't think so. Every topic is. I just met with a guy who is he's got an MBA. He's a real smart guy. I went to high school with him. He's got an interesting idea that he wants to come up with that minimum viable product for, but he doesn't know technology, and so he basically needs to meet a CTO. I don't know how to help him well. I don't feel like there's services out there that, and I don't know why. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of interesting.
I mean, he could try Elance or something, right, and just have someone. Something like that.
But again, like he's nervous to spend like a big outlay of cash to like test viability.
It's hard to build. Like you can see why it works in the CrowdSpring 99 Designs world, where it's like I need a logo and it's like $100 and you get 50 of them, because frankly, logos are much faster, like much easier to make than a code base in a working product. So it's easy to sort of dabble on the low end for graphic design work, but a lot harder to dabble on the low end for engineering work, because it just just flat out is. So it is probably hard to have an MVP sort of thing built. I mean, yeah, I could see it is kind of a hard thing to do. I've run into people like that all the time. Everyone's got ideas and like, I don't know how to do this kind of thing. I don't know how to make this thing. I mean, that might be a thing that he might want to go to something like Starter League.
That's what I brought up. Yeah.
And build this thing. People come out of that in 9 weeks and like they can make something. Like it's an MVP thing. It's not like something you're going to ship and launch the day you come out, but like you can piece something together and learn the basics pretty quickly. And then maybe you can build it yourself. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I was also curious, like, do these programs like Starter League, do they match up? I mean, there's got to be some great CTO potential that comes out of a program like Starter League. Is there anything that Starter League is doing to match potential CTOs with other people who need the new tech talent?
I don't know. I know that Starter League is not, they don't see themselves as a job placement sort of thing, but that's sort of a little bit different.
It's like founder placement. Yeah, I mean, he's willing to give up a ton of equity, halvesies partnership, and he doesn't know the right people.
Right. I don't know. Neil would be a good guy to talk to.
I'll bring it up to him.
Cool. This is a good show.
That's man.
Cool. We'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll see you in the office today.
I'll see you
but yeah, 3 p.m. tomorrow. Cool.
Yeah. Good deal, man.
Later.
Bye.